You are being robbed right now, this very second. And the worst part, you are handing over the goods yourself. Every time you respond to someone who doesn't deserve your breath, every time you explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, every time you chase after those who wouldn't cross the street to help you, you are hemorrhaging power, and you don't even see the wound. This is the brutal truth that weak men never learn and powerful men never forget. Your attention is not free. It is the most expensive currency in existence, and you have been throwing it at people like confetti at a parade. They are not even watching. The masters of strategy understood this 500 years ago in the blood-soaked streets of history. The prince who chases is the prince who falls. The ruler who explains is the ruler who begs. Tonight, that changes. Tonight, you learn the cold, calculated art that separates kings from peasants. The ruthless mastery of strategic silence. The weaponized power of complete indifference. And once you understand this, no one will ever pull your strings again. Part 1. The philosophy of silence. Why the powerful never chase. The greatest books on power were not written from an ivory tower. They were written from exile, from darkness, from the wreckage of political careers. History watches from the shadows as empires rise and crumble. It dissects princes like a surgeon dissects cadavers. It studies popes, generals, backstabbers, and conquerors. And through all that blood and betrayal, one truth crystallized sharper than a dagger. The man who chases always loses. The man who withdraws always conquers. Look, the ancients never believed in fairness. They believed in results, and the results were undeniable. Those who withheld their presence became magnetic. Those who gave it freely became forgettable, disposable, pathetic. Think about it. The leader who responded to every insult, seen as insecure. The leader who answered every critic, defensive, weak, small. But the leader who sat in absolute silence, who let his enemies scream into the void, who watched their fury dissolve into nothingness while he remained unmoved, that man was feared. Because silence isn't emptiness. Silence is a declaration of war. It says, "You are beneath my response." It says, "Your existence doesn't warrant my energy." It says, "I am operating on a level you cannot comprehend, much less reach." True philosophy advises leaders to embody both the fox and the lion. The fox knows which traps to avoid. The lion knows which battles are beneath him, which fights don't deserve his roar. Most men today are neither fox nor lion. They are dogs, chasing every car, barking at every stranger, exhausting themselves for absolutely nothing. You will not be that dog. You will learn what the elite know in their bones. Power is not loud. Power is quiet. Power doesn't explain itself. Power doesn't justify itself. Power doesn't defend itself. Power simply exists, and the world bends to accommodate it. When you master the philosophy of silence, you stop playing games other people designed to drain you. You create your own game, your own rules, your own kingdom. And in your kingdom, the only way to win is to never react at all. Part 2. The psychology of being ignored. What happens inside their mind? Now let me show you what happens in the mind of someone you ignore. This is dark psychology at its absolute purest. This is the scalpel cutting straight to the nerve. When you refuse to acknowledge someone, their brain enters a state of panic. Neuroscience has a name for it: social rejection. And here is the kicker. It activates the exact same brain regions as physical pain. They don't just think about it, they feel it in their chest, in their stomach, in their bones, and they cannot escape it. The person you ignore will replay every interaction like a broken record. They will wake up at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, wondering what they did wrong. They will craft text messages they never send. They will rehearse conversations that will never happen. You have become a ghost haunting their thoughts, a splinter lodged in their psyche, and you did it by doing absolutely nothing. This is the power you wield when you simply look away. The human mind cannot tolerate being dismissed. We are hardwired for connection, for validation, for validation, for response. It is evolutionary, it is primal. When you deny someone this basic psychological need, you don't just upset them, you create an obsession. They will try harder to reach you. They will modify their behavior, hoping for even a crumb of acknowledgement. They will question their own value, their own worth, their own reality. And through all of this psychological warfare, you are doing nothing. You are not scheming. You are not plotting. You are simply absent. This isn't cruelty for cruelty's sake. This is understanding the mechanics of human psychology and using them strategically, surgically. Weak men beg for attention. Strong men weaponize its absence. When you ignore someone who wronged you, you deny them closure. And closure is a gift, one they haven't earned. Instead, you leave them in psychological limbo, forever wondering, forever doubting, forever smaller than they were before they dared to cross you. This is the cold mathematical truth of power. The greatest punishment isn't revenge. The greatest punishment is irrelevance. And you deliver it by treating them like they don't exist. Because to you, they don't. Part 3. The art of strategic withdrawal. How to disappear without leaving. There is a critical difference between being absent and being strategically withdrawn. Absence is weakness, running away, hiding. Withdrawal is power. It is calculated, it is intentional. The master of this art learns to be physically present yet emotionally unreachable. He sits in the room, but his energy is on another plane. He looks at you, but he sees through you. Like you are glass, like you are air. This isn't something you fake, this is something you become. Strategic withdrawal means you choose where your presence goes. You don't scatter yourself across every conversation, every argument, every petty drama begging for your involvement. You conserve yourself like a weapon that is only drawn when victory is certain. Most men exhaust themselves being available, always on call, always replying, always engaging with every provocation, every insult, every desperate attempt to pull them into the mud. And in doing so, they become common. Common is the enemy of power. When you are always accessible, you have no value. You are a doormat, a vending machine. Push the button, get the response. But when you are selectively absent, when you are rare, when people have to wonder where you are and what you are doing, you become valuable, desired, mysterious. Practice this with ruthless consistency. Let calls go unanswered. Let messages sit unread. Let people wonder where you are, what you are doing, who you are with. The mystery you create is more powerful than any words you could ever speak. Emotional unavailability isn't about being cold for sport. It is about protecting your inner world from those who haven't earned access. Your thoughts, your energy, your attention. These are sacred territories, sovereign ground. Only those who prove themselves worthy should be allowed entry. Everyone else, they meet the wall. And here is the secret most will never grasp. The less you give, the more they want. The more you withdraw, the harder they chase. You are not disappearing, you're ascending. And from your elevation, the noise below becomes quieter, smaller, and ultimately completely meaningless. Part 4. Enemies, critics, and noise. The people who deserve your silence. Not everyone deserves your words. Hell, most people don't even deserve your silence. They deserve nothing. A void, a blank space where they thought they would find you. Learn to identify the people who should be completely erased from your attention. First, the enemies. These are the ones actively working against you, plotting your downfall, whispering poison behind your back while smiling to your face. Ancient wisdom taught that a leader must know his enemies, but never give them the satisfaction of acknowledgement. When you respond to an enemy, you elevate them. You tell the world they matter enough to disturb your peace, but when you ignore them completely, you strip them of their power. They become shadows boxing with the sun, meaningless, powerless, gone. Second, the critics. These are the voices that exist only to tear down what others build. They create nothing. They contribute nothing. They are spectators screaming from the cheap seats while you play the game on the field. Responding to critics is the fastest way to shrink yourself to their level. Let them talk, let them scream. Their words dissolve into air while your actions carve monuments in stone. Third, the energy vampires. These are the ones who drain you with constant problems, endless drama, perpetual need for validation. They disguise themselves as friends, but they are parasites feeding on your life force. Cut them off without explanation, without warning, without guilt. You owe them nothing. Here's what you must burn into your consciousness. Every reaction you give to unworthy people is energy stolen from your purpose. Every moment spent on their noise is a moment stolen from your greatness. The powerful man doesn't fight every battle. He selects his wars with surgical precision and lets the rest burn out on their own. Your silence isn't passive. Your silence is the loudest statement you can make. Part 5. The discipline of indifference. Training yourself to feel nothing. Understanding how to ignore people is easy. Actually doing it, that is where most men fail. Your emotions will betray you if you let them. The insult will sting. The disrespect will burn. Every fiber of your being will scream for you to react, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. This is where weak men crumble. They know the strategy, but they cannot control the feeling. You must train yourself to feel nothing. This isn't about suppressing emotion. This is about transcending it, rising above it like a mountain above the clouds. The Stoics called it apatheia, a state where external events cannot disturb your inner fortress. The strategists called it virtue, the cold mastery over oneself that allows a man to act with precision rather than passion. Start small. When someone disrespects you, pause, breathe. Let the anger rise like a wave, and then let it pass through you without action. Don't clench your fists. Don't change your expression. Don't give them anything. Become stone. Practice this daily until indifference becomes your factory setting, your default mode, your natural state. The man who cannot control his reactions is a puppet. Anyone can pull his strings. Anyone can manipulate his emotions. He is predictable, exploitable, weak. But the man who has mastered indifference, he is untouchable. You can insult him, and he will look at you like you are speaking a language that doesn't exist. You can betray him, and he will simply remove you from his life without drama, without explanation, without giving you the closure you desperately crave. He doesn't need to prove anything because his power is internal, self-contained, unshakable. This discipline isn't natural. It must be forged through repetition, through failure, through constant self-correction. There will be days when you slip, moments when your emotions win. That is fine, expected even. But each time you regain control, you become stronger. Each time you choose silence over reaction, you add another layer to your armor. Eventually, nothing can penetrate it. Nothing can touch you. Part 6. Power dynamics and social chess. Controlling the game without moving. Every human interaction is a chess game. The problem? Most people don't even realize they are playing. They move impulsively, emotionally, without strategy. They react to every attack, defend every square, and they lose. The master of power understands that the greatest moves are often no moves at all. When you ignore someone strategically, you force them to make the next move. You put them in a position where they must come to you, explain themselves to you, seek your approval. The entire dynamic shifts. The power transfers. In relationships, the one who cares less holds the power. This isn't cynicism, this is mathematical reality. When you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop seeking validation, you become the center of gravity. Others begin to orbit around you. In business, the man who appears unaffected by negotiation wins the negotiation. Desperation is visible. Neediness radiates like a bad smell. But calm indifference signals that you have options, that you don't need this deal, that you can walk away without losing sleep. This is how fortunes are made. In social hierarchies, the person who doesn't seek approval rises above those who do. While others compete for attention like dogs fighting over scraps, you stand apart. While others engage in gossip and petty conflicts, you remain above the noise. People will notice, people will wonder, and people will respect what they cannot understand. This is social chess at its highest level. You don't win by capturing every piece. You win by controlling the board with minimal effort. You win by making others exhaust themselves while you conserve your energy. You win by being the player who cannot be read, cannot be predicted, cannot be manipulated. The game is always being played. The only question is, are you the chess master or the pawn? Part 7. The danger of caring too much. When attention becomes your chain. Here is the trap that destroys most men. They care too much about what others think. They wake up wondering if people like them. They go to sleep replaying conversations, analyzing every word, searching for signs of approval or rejection. This is slavery disguised as social awareness. When you care about the opinions of others, you hand them the keys to your mind. They can make you happy with a compliment. They can destroy you with an insult. Your entire emotional state becomes dependent on external validation. You are no longer a free man. You are a prisoner begging for scraps of approval from people who don't even think about you when you leave the room. History warns against this weakness. A leader who seeks to be loved by everyone will be loved by no one. A leader who fears being hated will make decisions based on fear rather than strategy. The need for approval is the death of power. Dark psychology reveals why this happens. From childhood, we are programmed to seek validation. Parents reward us for good behavior. Teachers praise us for correct answers. Society conditions us to measure our worth through the eyes of others. Breaking this programming is one of the hardest things you will ever do, but it is necessary for freedom, for power, for sovereignty. The man who doesn't need approval cannot be controlled. You cannot bribe him with praise. You cannot threaten him with criticism. He operates from an internal compass that doesn't waver based on popular opinion. This is true freedom. This is true power. Start by catching yourself when you seek validation. Notice when you change your words to please others. Notice when you hesitate because you fear judgment. Each time you catch yourself, you weaken the chain. Each time you act without seeking approval, you move closer to liberation. Caring too much isn't sensitivity, it is weakness. The powerful man cares deeply about his purpose, his mission, his legacy. But he doesn't care at all about the opinions of those who are irrelevant to his path. Learn the difference and you will break chains you didn't even know you were wearing. Part 8. Becoming untouchable, the final transformation. Everything you have learned leads to this moment. The philosophy, the psychology, the discipline, the strategy. All of it converges into one singular transformation. You are becoming untouchable. This isn't arrogance, this is architecture. You are building a version of yourself that cannot be reached by those who wish to harm you, distract you, or control you. The untouchable man walks differently, speaks differently, carries himself with a quiet authority that needs no announcement. People sense it before he says a word. There is something behind his eyes that tells the world, I have seen through the illusions that trap ordinary men. He doesn't compete for attention because he knows attention will find him. He doesn't argue with fools because he knows silence is the superior weapon. He doesn't chase validation because he validates himself from within. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It is forged through countless moments of restraint. Every time you chose not to respond, you added steel to your spine. Every time you walked away from drama, you elevated your position. Every time you let someone scream into the void of your indifference, you proved you are beyond their reach. The untouchable man isn't cold for the sake of being cold. He is selective. He reserves his warmth for those who have earned it. He reserves his words for moments that matter. He reserves his energy for battles that align with his purpose. Everything else receives nothing. This is the final truth of absolute power. The man who can be wounded emotionally will eventually be wounded physically. The man who can be manipulated through his need for approval will eventually be destroyed by those who exploit that need. But the man who needs nothing from anyone He becomes a force that cannot be stopped. You are not becoming heartless, you are becoming sovereign. There is a kingdom inside you that belongs to no one but yourself. Your thoughts are your territory. Your emotions are your subjects. Your attention is your gold, and you decide who enters your gates. From this day forward, you don't react. You respond only when it serves you. You don't explain. You let your results speak. You don't chase. You attract by becoming someone worth chasing. This is the final transformation. This is what it means to be untouchable. The call to power. Your reign begins now. You have sat in the shadows long enough. You have given your energy to people who drained you and returned nothing. You have explained yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You have chased validation from people who couldn't validate themselves. That version of you dies tonight. The man who emerges from this moment is different. He carries the wisdom of the ancients in his mind and the coldness of strategy in his heart. He understands that attention is currency and he will never spend it carelessly again. He knows that silence isn't weakness, but the ultimate display of strength. He recognizes that the art of ignoring people isn't about hatred, it is about self-preservation and dominance. This is your awakening. This is the moment you stop being a passenger in your own life and become the driver. No more reacting to every provocation like a puppet on strings. No more explaining yourself to people who have already made up their minds. No more wasting precious hours on those who wouldn't sacrifice a minute for you. From this day forward, you operate differently. You speak less, observe more. You engage only when it serves your purpose. You let the noise of the world fade into background static while you focus on what truly matters. Your goals, your growth, your legacy. The people who once controlled your emotions will notice the change. They will test you, they will provoke you, they will try everything to pull you back into their games, but you will not be moved. You will look at them with eyes that have seen the truth, and you will give them nothing, not your anger, not your frustration, not even your acknowledgement. They will become ghosts trying to haunt a man who no longer believes in their existence. This is cold power psychology in its purest form. This is strategic mastery applied to modern life. This is the ruthless art of ignoring that separates kings from commoners, victors from victims, legends from the forgotten. You now possess knowledge that most men will never understand. Use it wisely. Use it strategically. Use it to build an empire within yourself that no external force can ever crumble. If this message has ignited something within you, leave a comment below with the words, "I am untouchable." Let the world know you have chosen power over weakness, silence over noise, sovereignty over slavery. If you found value in these words, strike the like button and show your commitment to this path. Subscribe to this channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss another lesson in power, psychology, and self-mastery. Your reign begins now. Go forth and